Hello, this is my sixth video for ED 455. I wanted to begin by talking about what liberal education is outlined and how it's outlined, excuse me, in this article, um, in terms of how to integrate it into different academic subjects as well as to teach it on its own, because there is such an importance on having arts, on having music, on having civics, on having government, all subjects that are not tested upon really by standardized tests. It really pushes most students to figure out what counts in education and only focus on those two, both obviously on a student basis because you're focusing on reading and math, but also just teacher-wise, you're teaching to the test. And so why would you need to teach about other things, more varied subjects, when you're not going to be tested on them, especially if your pay or your salary gets increased or decreased depending on how your students do. One thing that bothered me quickly in this article that we read was it was contemplating the effectiveness of NCLB. And through many different educational researches, researches, whether it's for early education, for low minority students, NCLB has become more and more of the thing that's been hated by education. In this sense, it really discredited this article because at the end it said, well, I don't know how NCLB is going to affect, when the fact of the matter is, if NCLB has created standards where math and reading are the subjects that are going to be tested, why should there be an importance on any other liberal arts subjects? So it bothers me that this author did not fully come out and say that NCLB has negatively affected the importance and the scale-up opportunities of liberal arts education. Um, Now, interestingly enough, we had this conversation about early education today, and I think that because students are probably not going to get it in public education, probably not going to get liberal arts education through their K through 12 experience, I wanted to emphasize that it's even more of importance on early education and having liberal arts agendas in pre-K scenarios, because it gives kids motor skills, it gives kids a way to access the arts, the music, to access arts and music, because they're probably not going to get it in their future education. So I want to maybe put aside that liberal arts has extreme benefits in pre-K education. Why is it not? Why can it not be carried out throughout all? And the fact of the matter is that funding is obviously one of the biggest obstacles to promote liberal arts education, because why would you want to fund something that you're not tested on? And if you're not going to raise academic standards, why would you test kids in subject areas that aren't quote-unquote important for the test? However, on the other flip side of that is, how would you test kids in music? How would you test kids in art? Is it on that subject area's vocabulary? So there's things that need to be figured out. Similarly to that point, how are you going to have teachers prepared enough to teach those subject areas and to teach them at the quality level of other subject areas that are being tested on? I think one of the best points that liberal arts educators can make is that it can give students an array of ideas, an array of opportunities, an array of interests that can be pushed forward and emphasized in vocational jobs, or vocational schooling, so that for low SES kids and minority kids who probably won't achieve, who probably can't get to the college level or top tier secondary education, it allows them to see a wide breadth of possible other job opportunities, careers that they could be interested in, whether it be an artist, whether it be pottery or stained glass or anything else. If you broaden these subject areas, it might give students an ability to once again find out something they're interested in and re-engage in school. The next thing I want to talk about is commodity versus right. We have this constant debate in class about whether education at these levels are commodity or right. A liberal arts education is most oftenly a commodity, unfortunately, for our education system, because the more money you have, the more variance in curriculum you're allowed to have, because students students are able to go on field trips. They're able to have a bigger source of materials. All these things affect it, and so unfortunately, liberal arts is becoming more of a commodity now. Should it be switched to a right? Absolutely, and should kids have a wide breadth, especially. A wide breadth of knowledge, especially if the whole goal of liberal arts is to become a better human, to learn how to be a human, how to interact with everyone socially. It's really important that if it's a right, it's really important that it should be a right, and should be a necessary thing in all the schools. Um, so, in conclusion, I feel like it's really needed, and it can be incredibly beneficial for low SES students as well as minority students, because they probably won't have the variance in materials, the variance in subject area in other forms of schooling, especially if what counts and is what being tested on is just reading and math. So this article does a great job in saying why it's important. However, the implementation of it is not here, which is scary because that's the chunk and the meat of the ideas that need to be instituted in schools.